All right, here we go. It is a brand new Flyers Daily for the 25th of March, 2025. Flyers Daily presented by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Jason Myrtetus at the announcer's desk, ready to deliver another episode of Flyers Daily. Hope everybody's doing well. Flyers will be back in action tonight. They'll wrap up a 5-game road trip, which, like the 7-game homestand, has not been kind. They will wrap it up tonight in Toronto against the second-place Toronto Maple Leafs in the Atlantic Division. Also, the first game for the Flyers against their former teammate, Scott Laughton, who is now wearing Toronto blue and white. Toronto, like I said, sitting in that second spot in the Atlantic Division. They've been kind of seesawing back and forth with Tampa Bay for that second spot. They're still in the running for the top spot. They've got 12 more games to go. They have a game in hand on Florida, who's in the top spot with 89 points. And Toronto, through 70 games, has 87 points. So 2 points back with a game in hand and 2 points up with no games in hand for Tampa or the Toronto Maple Leafs on each other. Tampa at 85 points in the Atlantic Division. And you got to think that where Toronto finishes could be a big indication of how they're going to perform in these playoffs. You get that number 1 seed, then you get wild card number 1. In this case, that would be the Ottawa Senators. If you get the 2 seed, you get home ice against the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you get the 3 seed, you have Tampa has home ice against the Tampa Bay Lightning. As things fall right now, crazy how it's going to come down the stretch here. Right now, the 2 wildcard teams, Ottawa and Montreal. Ottawa with 79 points looks pretty, I don't want to say cemented in there, but they're in a pretty comfortable position. And Montreal with 75 points, not so comfortable. Rangers are back by a point, but Montreal's got 2 games in hand. The Islanders are back by 2 points and have played the same amount of games. We'll see if the 2 Canadian teams can get in here in the wild card with Ottawa and Montreal. But Flyers, Toronto tonight. Who leads Toronto in scoring? Well, in a normal year, that would probably be Austin Matthews, but he's missed time this year. He's only played 55 games, still has 63 points, 27 goals, 36 assists, 9 goals on the power play, 13 power play assists. Leading the way is Mitch Marner, having a monster year. 69 games played, 22 goals, 63 assists, 85 points, 25 power play assists to go along with 6 power play goals. William Nylander is second in scoring, 70 games, 73 points. He has got 10 power play goals, 18 power play assists, 73 points on the year, including 38 goals. Astounding numbers. Just unbelievable. But, when it comes down to the Toronto Maple Leafs, it all depends on what they're able to accomplish in the playoffs. Got out of the first round, but they haven't gotten further yet. And again, how things play out with the seeding in this year's playoffs and pending some good goaltending, we'll see how Toronto handles the postseason with first-year coach Craig Berube behind the bench. And obviously, Craig Berube, Chiefs won a cup very recently, 2019, with the St. Louis Blues. So he knows what buttons to push to get a team through multiple rounds of the playoffs, ultimately taking that St. Louis team to the promised land behind the goaltending of Jordan Binnington, great play of Ryan O'Reilly, Pietrangelo, and others. Braden Shen. So we'll see what is in store for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Flyers are going to come back from the trip with a 3-game homestand, and 10 to go for the Flyers. Final 10 are here, if you can believe it. I can't believe this season there's only 10 games to go, but that's where we sit here on the 25th of March. They'll be back on Thursday against Montreal, the aforementioned Montreal Canadiens. Then Buffalo will come into town, last place team in the Eastern Conference. And then it'll be the Nashville on Sunday or next Monday. They'll have Nashville at Wells Fargo Center. Then they're going to head on the road for 2 against Montreal and the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers on April 5th and April 9th. A little bit of break there from the 31st to the first game on the 5th, and then a game on the 9th. Not a ton of hockey to be played in that small condensed area. And then April 12th and 13th, they have back-to-backs with New York, the Islanders at home, and then they'll head to Ottawa for the second of the back-to-back on Sunday, April 13th. Then Columbus at home on the 15th, and they'll wrap up the season in Buffalo on April 17th. So we still got 3 weeks and change here, 10 games to go in this regular season for the Flyers. And then the countdown to the draft will be there, the countdown to free agency, and the countdown to another rookie camp and preseason. I'm just so not looking forward to the offseason. I'm not ready for it. I'm not looking forward to it. And I'm not happy about it, that it's coming without the playoffs once again. And it's one of the talking points that really was prevalent. It has been prevalent, obviously, with this year and the term tank, Tank, and the Flyers getting a higher draft position and people wanting the tank going into next year. People were talking about it like crazy on the YouTube feed from yesterday's podcast that Bill and I did. And people talking about, one guy put, give me a T, give me an A, give me an N, give me a K. Let's go, tank. Joseph said, so much of tanking is tanking at the right time. You are definitely correct about that. I've never called it tanking at the right time. I've called it being bad or stinking at the right time. Some teams you can be bad, but the year you're bad, the year you get lottery luck, is not a good year for it. Look, Flyers would fall into that category. In 2017, they got lottery luck, moved up from 12 or 13 to number 2 overall in that draft. And the consensus number 1 overall pick for most of that season was Nolan Patrick. And then stock rose a little bit later as we got closer to the draft, and Nolan Patrick's injury history, an injury that season, rolled into the equation. But the Flyers ended up drafting Nolan Patrick. And, Colorado drafted Cale Makar. Vancouver drafted Elias Pettersson. Dallas drafted Miro Heiskanen after the Flyers drafted Nolan Patrick. So much of it is being bad and being bad at the right time. Joseph went on to say Colorado's rebuild was successful via a tank because they got McKinnon and then they hit on Rantanen and Makar. So they got a generational 1C, 1D, and a top winger and built around them. It's exactly what they did. Other teams that tank fail because either their timing is off, they miss on their picks, or they fail to develop their picks. Rebuilds don't have to take 10 years. Totally agree. As a matter of fact, a rebuild should never take 10 years. That's ridiculous that it has to take that long. Joseph said the Flyers have 7 picks, likely in the top 50 of this draft. Great. But is the timing right? Is this draft the right time to have all those picks? Is this a draft where you can get players like Makar, Rantanen, and McKinnon? Well, McKinnon's number 1 overall. Makar is a top 5. Rantanen is a top 5. So they don't have multiple picks in the top 5. They could end up with 1. We'll see. I don't know that there's a player in this draft that's as good as McKinnon, Makar, or Rantanen. We don't know that. They've been great players, and they've played on a good team and put up great numbers. So we'll see. But you're totally right. Sometimes it's not that you stink. Are you stinking at the right time? And what's available at that time via the draft? Lawrence said, I've seen tanks before. This is a tank. He said, we need top-tier players. The team is worse than last year. That's clear. I mean, they've going back to last year's deadline where they trade Sean Walker. That wasn't to make them better, to trade Sean Walker. It was to make them better long-term by getting a Colorado's first-round pick out of it. But it wasn't to make them better. Trading Farabee, Frost, and others this season, Scott Laughton, wasn't to make them better now. It's to make them better in the future. That's what a rebuild is. He said the team is 0 for power play in March. Yeah, clearly, still an issue. Probably playing the slowest goaltender in the league in Ivan Fedotov. He said, Danny, shake Howie Roseman's hands. Get some of that mojo, anything. He said, I've been watching this team for 50 years. After they won their 2 cups, I became a Flyers fan, and I'm so bleeping sick of losing. I'm on my back 9 of my life, and I need to see at least 1 cup. I have no idea how to build a contender. That's not my job. That's the Flyers brass job, who need to learn to do that. So do that. But that takes time. I think you know that. I'm not poking at you, Lawrence, but it takes time to build a contender. It's not going to happen overnight, and you can't microwave it. If you microwave it, it ends up tasting like microwave food, which is not very good. He said, I can't take this crap team anymore. Get off the treadmill, and build us a winner. He said, pissed is not even a word that describes how I feel about this franchise. Yeah, they need to see this part of the rebuild. The build part is even more difficult than what we've gone through the past 2 years. What we've gone through the past 2 years is not the fun part, but it's not the difficult part. Evaluating and assessing who you want to move forward with and shipping out the guys you don't isn't the hard part. Having all the assets and getting value as best you can for those pieces is difficult, but the hardest part and the most important part is the building part. This is the part where you hand out contracts and they are guaranteed. There's no redos on them. You have to be diligent. You have to make the right decisions. You have to make sure the positions not only fit financially for the team now and into its evolution through the build, you have to make sure that the players fit on the ice, that you build a team that doesn't have redundancy in talent at certain areas. You have to build a team that can go out and compete and have guys in the right roles. You have to have a team that is slotted correctly. You have to have the team with restricted free agents coming along in a staggered fashion, so not everybody needs to be paid at one time. These are all pieces of the puzzle that are vitally important to the build. The build is now what's in store for the Flyers. Again, I just want to tell people, don't go into this offseason thinking Rome is going to be built in a day. I don't think their 1C is available this offseason unless it's in the draft and that guy turns into a 1C. We'll see in time for that. But there's not the 1C out there that's available via free agency. And I don't know that the 1C out there that's available via trade this offseason. I don't. So I think if you expect them to get a bona fide 1C at Anze Kopitar for the next decade or 8 years, I think if you're expecting that this offseason, you're going to be disappointed. I believe that. I don't think that's coming this offseason. I think the team can begin to upgrade itself at the center position, at the left wing position, possibly on the blue line, and certainly in goal. But I don't expect the 1C this offseason because I'm not paying Brock Nelson a contract to come here and be the 1C at 34 years old. He's available, and yeah, he would make them better now, but that's not my 1C solution. That's the best available, not the best player. So I think we need to understand that the building process is going to be incremental like the tearing down process was. This is going to be incremental in nature. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think they'll be tanking next year for McKenna. Could they end up in that position if they don't get the right goalie or they don't get the right deals done? Sure. But I think it's time to move the thing forward. Let's get to a couple emails. Ed emails in, frequent emailer to the program. He said, I hope you're feeling well today because I'm sure today's game isn't helping. He sent this to me during the Blackhawks game. The Blackhawks game didn't bother me. I saw that coming a mile away, Ed. I said it on the pregame show. This is a game that I'd be very nervous about as the coach. After playing 5 straight playoff teams, very tight, not getting a result, and playing the worst team in the league in Chicago, I could tell that clunker was coming a mile away, and it was a clunker. He said, I know the Flyers are a tired club after yesterday's match with the Stars, but what an awful showing regardless. Yeah, again, that game doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't. Totally expected it. He said, it could be a longer wait to respectability with what I've seen today. Yesterday has nothing to do with how long. It didn't change a single thing with the wait to respectability. That was a human nature game yesterday. That after you play 5 teams really tight, Washington, Dallas, Tampa twice, and Carolina, and you go in there on a back-to-back against that team, knew that was coming. Doesn't change anything about any timetable or anything. He said there are certainly missing a lot of pieces. Well, yeah, totally. They are missing a ton of pieces. I can't wait. He said, I can't wait for the season to end. Have a great weekend. I can wait. I don't want the season to end. I don't want to go into my stupid countdown app on my phone already and start counting down to the draft and to next season. I already feel like this hockey season was taken from me with my sickness enough. I'm not like chomping at the bit for it to end. I'm not. It's been painful, but I love hockey season. Look, I love the first round of the playoffs, and I'm going to be all sorts of angry when that begins and the mayhem of the first round begins and the Flyers not being in it. I'll be jealous of the other markets that are. First round of the playoffs are phenomenal. Jeff Kirsch tweeted in our messages in via email and says, hey, Jason, between the updates you provide via the podcast and the incredible article about you on NHL.com, I applaud you for your transparency regarding your cancer battle. I'm so glad to see and hear how many of us are sending positive vibes your way and are pulling for you to get healthy ASAP. Yeah, that selfishly, Jeff, absolutely a reason why I did go public, because I knew that people would help me. I think that my story, hope my story, and me being transparent about what I'm going through, what I went through before it, and that I hope that it helps people. I do so much. And I look at this cancer battle that I'm in as I have to find some good in it. And I'm using it as a calling to help other people with this. And that won't be over when I'm done. If I get well, when I get well and cancer free, that calling will not end with that. I will continue to be a proponent for getting colonoscopies and early detection and awareness about health. That's not going to end. So thank you for your note. He said, given the goalie situation has been a topic you've discussed recently, I always discuss goaltending. He said, I feel strongly that management, quote, owes the players an upgrade for next year. He said the numbers of this season are hideous. And while Ersson has had stretches where he's looked like a number one goalie, he's also had stretches where he looks like a backup at best. And while I could say the same thing about Fedotov, his lows have been way lower. He said, I think a very reasonable case could be made that the Flyers had received even slightly below average goaltending this year and had some semblance of a power play, they'd still be playing meaningful games now and would likely be pushing for a wild card spot. He said, I realized the tank crowd wouldn't like that. And while what's done is done, I'd be quite disappointed if I were a player on the team if the front office doesn't go and get at least a decent goalie, which could be an older player on a 2 to 3 year deal and a new power play coach. What say you and Billy? This was for Bill and I. Bill's not here today, but thanks, Jeff. Great note, Jeff. And I agree. I think it's time to move this thing forward. I don't know about owing players, but I think it's time to move this thing forward. I think we're at a tipping point, both from a player standpoint, a fan standpoint, and I think it's time to start moving forward. Would they be in the wild card race if they had average goaltending this year and some semblance of a power play? Very possibly. I think that if their goaltending maintained last year, they would have been, for sure. So yeah, I don't disagree that if they had league average goaltending and league average power play, they may be in a position to be, a team that could be fighting for one of these wild card spots with Ottawa, with Montreal, with Columbus, with the Islanders. They maybe could have been in that position. And maybe that would have changed how they acted at the deadline. I don't know. Or they maybe have less assets, like getting a number one first round pick in Gurbenkin for Scott Laughton. We'll see. But I think it is time to move this thing forward. Flyers will be back at it tonight with the aforementioned Scott Laughton in a Toronto Maple Leaf jersey as they wrap up a 5-game homestand against the Leafs tonight. We'll break it down tomorrow. Join us then on a brand new Flyers Daily.